Welcome, everyone. I am Enrique Acosta Gonzales, and I am joined by Ashkan Tashvir. And in this episode, we will be speaking about how the courage to own your decisions fuels success. And Ashkan, this is an important element in leadership, and I'm excited for the conversation to be had.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Enrique. And hello, everyone, for being with us for another episode. Okay, so let's start from here. Like always, we just create the context and then we take it from there. Mm. Um, so we discussed integrity before, and integrity with the distinction that in all systems, in any whole, there are parts, and any of these parts are operating in optimal level at an optimal level, then integrity is going to be established, is going to be maintained, and is going to basically lead to one of the major outcome or the result of integrity would be workability. Then the system is going to work. This applies to the whole ecosystem all the way down to getting a mechanical watch work. Yeah. Similarly, like in our body, like we have these subsystems, we have 11 systems in our body that um, altogether they're going to lead to this state of homeostasis where you then be considered healthy. Yeah. Now, there is this phenomenological pattern, or basically in a simple language, there is this common human experience that we all know that this state of integrity is to a great degree fleeting. So it's not like you establish this state of integrity and everything is working in your life and everything is working in your being. All aspects of your being are actually working, and you're going to stay in that state. No, we know that matters in life comes our way, and they're going to challenge that state of integrity, even if you have managed to establish it to a to a degree. So therefore, it's not just establishing that, but also maintaining that. So having this sense of integrity and workability, but then knowing that certain things on our way, and they're going to shatter sometimes, shatter that integrity. Then what we can do, like what we can do, is actually to identify which parts are the parts that are now missing or um, sweeping away, sliding, etc., etc. And once you identify that, because you have that sense of integrity, then you can bring it back. You can restore the integrity. So this is a kind of a daily thing. This is like keeping our hygiene. It's not like you go in and take a shower just once a month and then you go, fantastic, I'm going to be clean. No, that's why it's recommended to do it daily, huh? So no, so that's the state of integrity. Now, within that, um, in living our lives, we're going to make mistakes. Yeah, we're going to make mistakes. We discussed that in some of the other episodes that see our sensory ability is limited. Our nose is not going to be as perfect as a dog's nose. Our ears is going to only interpret or convert certain waves within certain frequencies to what we refer to as sound. So we're not going to hear all sounds there, all waves or frequencies there. Then our perceptual structure is also limited. Yeah, so we discussed that we can see the things that are not even there. We can be delusional, or we can not see what's so apparent and so close to our eyes. Yeah, and also on top of that, then there are limitations to our rationality, our conceptual structure. Most of the mistakes, perhaps, or all of the mistakes that we have made in our lives, and I'm not talking about objective mistakes. I'm talking about um, the the things that you yourself consider mistake. Yeah, um, very likely you have made them through your rationality at the time. Yeah, But if you want to be vulnerable enough, open enough, and humble enough when we zoom out or when we look in retrospect, we can clearly see that our rationality also hasn't worked in our favor all the time. Yeah. So within the confusion, within those limitations, uh, at the same time knowing that this state of integrity is going to be constantly or continuously be shattered or challenged. And the third statement that I would want to throw into this mix is like we know that we are autonomous, at least semi-autonomous. Like we have a high degree of autonomy, you know, and we can own things, we can influence things to a good degree. And that's what I refer to as responsibility, not like responsibility like a duty or obligation, but being able to respond to the matters that life brings to us. So I'll recap and I'll pass it to you, Enrique. Um, Integrity is there because we are also a system. Our life is a system. It has constituent parts, and we know that the way that life goes as time passes, uh, our integrity is going to be challenged, is going to be shattered even at times. At the same time, then we know that we have a high degree of autonomy and we are responsible, meaning that we can respond to the matters that life brings to us. Integrity matters in life, and then we can respond to them through our responsibility or autonomy. Now, so far, let me ask you, Enrique, like how does it land for you? What does it land for you when we create this narrative, when we look into life and how it goes, and our role in it from a very high level perspective through this narrative?
No, I love that you start with integrity because indeed, and just like it states in the distinction, right? Integrity is the prerequisite to being effective and operating at the optimal level of performance and is fundamental. Like that's what you need
Yeah,
to generate trust and workability. So when we're talking about the scenario when you're talking about integrity, I always go to a ship as a sailor. Forgive me, I spent too many years out to sea, but
yeah,
that's what I think about when I think integrity because there are glass seas at times. There are slow, long swells at times, and then there's battering waves and other times. And all those are indicative or similar to those challenges that you talked about, those things that will come to stress us in our integrity to see if we'll break or not. But when we started with the title of owning, right? Ownership. And part of ownership is understanding the level of integrity that you have in terms of your workability, but also like you just mentioned, having the ability to respond, knowing and being aware of that integrity challenge as to how you're going to end up in the long run. So yeah, beautiful
yeah.
way to bring this in as a discussion.
So yeah, when we talk about um, responsibility or ownership as part of that responsibility, so we often discuss this distinction where we say being the primary cause of the matters that life brings to you, regardless of the source. See, when we say primary cause, it doesn't mean that we're saying that you are the sole primary cause. No, you are a primary so cause. But we say regardless of the source, because we know that it's not like you who is causing all things going on in the world. But at the same time, see, we're not a kind of a mouse pad that life just occurs to us. You know, we're not only a passive victim. Um, at times, we may feel like that. At times, the reality may indicate that we are victim to circumstances. But the thing is, a person with a relatively stable or healthier relationship with responsibility would be the one who would um, acknowledge with openness and vulnerability that they are victim of this particular circumstance, but they do whatever they can to steer the course. Yeah. Now, sometimes we may find ourselves quite trapped. We may find ourselves in situations as if like we don't have any choice. And apart for perhaps from some certain exceptions, but we always have choices, and that's our relationship with freedom, how we relate to freedom. Now, owning owning our decision is like we talked about all these limitations that we have. At the end of the day, it's your responsibility, you know, in a powerful way to make these decisions, to make these choices, and then take actions. Now, here when we talk about actions, often, um, so we need to consider two distinct things here. So we talk about state of being, as opposed to just action. What does that mean? Action is just like a one-off activity that you engage in. You do something. When we're talking about the state of being, it's not it's an existential matter. It has to do with your being. It's like how it's about your manner. It's about how you carry yourself. It's about your presence. Yeah, it's like how you engage with this thing called life and various different qualities that you can have, including courage, for example, or responsibility, as we keep talking about them here. So we said the courage to own your decisions, leading to success. So the courage is a self-generating quality here, yeah, but that needs to be generated from within. As I said, it's existential one. It's not just it's not a merely intellectual quality. It's not just a thought. It's how you internalize that thought, and you established it so strongly in a robust manner, so that when you enter uncertainties, when you deal with fear generating scenarios, then you let the courage lead your action. Now I know that like this may seem kind of a mystical or something, but it's not. I mean, if it's about the ontology of how, about the isness of the thing. It's not just like you want to take a courageous action. It's not just acting something out. That's just a part of it, you know. It's about who and how you have become, and how equipped you are to let the courage manifest itself in multiple different actions that you're going to. So when we talk about action versus uh, a state of being, action is just one-off thing, but then the action is more like the leaf of on a tree. But state of being is continuous. It's continuous. It's sitting there, underlies all of these actions that you're going to take on the surface. So instead of just focusing on, okay, so this is a brave or courageous act, we want to go deeper and go, okay, so how I'm relating to life and all in it. How do I relate to courage itself? So that relatedness, the way that you internalize that, then it's going to manifest itself in your actions. So how does that land? Like, what do you have to say about that, Enrique?
Yeah, and I love the dance between the responsibility and the courage, because responsibility is to intentionally choose, to own, to cause, to bring about outcomes that matter, work and produce results while also being answerable, which is the part of responsibility that people don't often consider. Just because you were able to respond in a certain kind of way, there are still elements of that response that you have to answer to, right? So, and that courage is the state of being that gives rise to the ability to make that decision, right? So, it's a wonderful dance, but these elements, although they seem singular in nature, they all compile together to create this integrous position in your life to be able to do all these things. But responsibility is often a kind of not given its just due in terms of how it shows up and how we show up, how we are being with
Mm.
responsibility to bring about the actions that we really want to see.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. Um, so so courage to own our decisions. So all of those limitations are there. You are responsible. You have to make the decision at the end of the day. If you miss the opportunity to make choices and make decisions, then life is not going to be halted. Like time is going to pass. Life is going to carry on. And the only thing that would happen is like you're missing the opportunity to influence it. And just that, if you deeply appreciate that, it's like you have no option of halting the time, stopping the time. It's passing. And if you don't manage to influence it, own your life and your circumstances, no matter how unpleasant they may seem to be to you at the time, life is going to go ahead. It's going to carry on. And you're just going to miss that opportunity to influence it. And this is one of the clear distinctions between the ones that I consider them highest achievers amongst us. The people that they have a higher degree of integrity, higher degree of um, effectiveness, and therefore they manage to build themselves robust enough, their being, build their being, develop their being robust enough so that they can manage to considerably, significantly increase the probability of them being able to hit their targets, being able to fulfill the very intentions they create for themselves and for their organizations and etc. etc. So um, you need to dare mm, putting your thoughts in action, making your decisions as best as possible. You're going to tap into those limited abilities that you may have, like including our rationality, and you're going to act. You're going to act, and you're not going to get it perfect. Now, I know this may seem me seen as a very simplistic conversation, but it is what it is. It is the isness of that. At least, like this is how I would interpret that isness. You're not going to get it perfect. Not definitely not in the first round, the second round, the third round. We know this as we work with lots of entrepreneurs. We work this as we work with lots of engineers. We're not omniscient. We're not. I mean, we have limitations to our perceptual structure and the rationality, as we said. We're going to make mistakes. The thing is, how with what kind of velocity, how fast you're going to go through the rounds of mistakes that you can go while not being out of getting run out of resources and hitting the target by then. So it's not just insisting on one thing and hoping that it's going to happen. No, but being persistent in going through this iterative approach of, I'm going to now, I've created an initial conception of my intention. I've done my studies and everything. I've tried to make a good decision. Now it's the time to execute it. You execute it, you track it, you learn from that, and then you're going to refine it and you're going to execute again. If you manage to, in a with a high velocity, if you can go through this process and go through this iteration as time is carrying on and hit some part of your target before you run out of resources and energy, we call that success. Now, one of the misconception of success is this thing that I come up with this predictive plan, I go and I put it in place and it should work. If it didn't work, I'm going to give up because that's a failure. While a more healthy relationship with this would be a more effective way to go about this is no. I so know that very, very likely I'm not going to be able to come up with this perfect predictive plan, put it in action, and and then getting it work perfectly right in the first round or second round or third round. If you start relating to life and projects and your activities like that, then you're going to relate to failure not at the as the end of the game. You're going to relate to failures, you're going to relate to mistakes as feedback. So you're going to put yourself in this feedback loop, in this iterative approach. You're going to learn from that, uh, and refine it and then execute again. And this is the pattern that I found that it works for many, 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 many successful people, or the ones who manage to fulfill their intentions. So yeah, so that's basically what we mean. But owning your decisions at the end of the day, and not going through this blame game of finger pointing and so, oh, because of economy, because of this, because of that, etc., etc. As a matter of the fact, like if you really look into many, many of these people that we considered successful or high achievers, um, they very likely had, um, at least in part, they had their circumstances in their life equally bad as us, or even worse. Yeah. So it's not like the only people that manage to get there and then increase the probability of fulfilling their intentions, there are the ones that they are coming from a very clean background. They didn't have any family problem. They had the perfect father, perfect mother. They inherited lots of wealth and everything, or they didn't have any traumas in their life. It's not the case. As a matter of the fact, there is a relation with, like when you see from a Maslow's perspective, some interpretations of that is like you need to create this welfare and like education, and like you need to have X amount of calorie a day, etc., etc. Then you can transcend to a my understanding of the people that I've studied and then came up with the being framework at the time is, as a matter of the fact, most of those people are people that they didn't have a very clean background. They've experienced the harshest thing in their life. They've gone through traumatic experiences. They didn't have really good family, many of them. They dealt with poverty. um, they went broke a couple of times, and then they managed to persevere, um, going through the simple process, high level process that I just mentioned. So that's basically what we're saying, that owning your the courage to own your mistakes at the end of the day, it's going to help you keep going through this iterative process and refine the way that you're interacting with the world and the way that you're making decisions and taking actions. And if you don't do that, the alternative to that is um, being blocked, being stuck, um, going through victimization, blaming game, self sabotage, and basically putting your energy in creating excuses why you haven't managed to hit your target at the first goal. So, what would you have to say about this, Enrique?
Yeah, no, what you just said at the latter part was exactly what I was thinking. But bottom line, leaders that are listening, your decisions are yours. And even if your team decides a thing, it's yours, right? Because you're the leader. And so you cannot put yourself in a position where you just let your integrity go away. You start treating responsibility in a negative way, unhealthy. And the outcome is that you'll never have the courage to do anything as a leader, because now you've given away all the elements that are required for you to make great decisions, to own it and move forward. So consider integrity, relationship, and courage, and your relationship with those three. And I think you'll be in a great position to be a great leader for your people.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. And at the end of the day, like we talked about courage, vulnerability, courage, responsibility, and freedom, they manifest themselves in a more tangible behavioral qualities like resilience, for example, yeah, or resourcefulness or accountability. I mean, these are the qualities that are extremely important if you want to be leading, if you want to be a leader of influence. So yeah, I hope that this conversation um, encourage you to actually look into it from this perspective that we put forward there. Thank you very much, Enrique, for yet another opportunity for to talk to me and created this episode. And thank you very much, everyone, for being with us. Any final say, Enrique, before we wrap it up?
No, no, you did great, and I hope that all the leaders get a good education and piece out of this, and are able to employ it in their day to day.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.